Okay. Someone, Derek, is that your computer on?
Sorry, what?
Not any longer. Yes, it is.
Recording?
And we're just waiting for
Are we recording?
everybody here. It's live on YouTube though. Okay.
Yeah, but we want to make sure it's recording.
We could probably miss the opening. Hi, how are you? Madam Clerk, may I? May I?
Email Cheryl? Okay, he's in a meeting. Okay.
Okay, we're going to start. I'd like to officially call this meeting to order on 9:33 a.m. It's an electronic meeting held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 due to our COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to confirm that all members are present of our council committee today. Thank you. We also have a number of staff members or CAO or clerk, and we have a number of consultants with us as well. Director Becking, many of our senior staff are here, if not all. The public comments for today's meeting, as all of our meetings for our public engagement through our Zoom technology, is done through a email address, tmlpubliccomment@muskokalakes.ca, and we have not received any emails on today's meeting. Motions have been pre-populated, random movers and seconders, just to put the motion on the floor, and voting will be done by a show of hands in favor or against. As recorded, it is not considered a recorded vote. Any disclosures of interest this morning, Council? Not seeing any. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We do have Strategy Corp that is with us today, and they will be leading us through our discussion as we reboot, so to speak, or refresh our strategic plan. So to start the day, though, I'm going to start with a resolution moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved that pursuant to Section 232 of Township's Procedural Bylaw 2019-79, the rules of procedure are suspended during the for the duration of the Strategic Plan Refresh August Workshop, Series Session 2, and that they be reinstated at the conclusion of said workshop. All those in favor? Madam Clerk, I think we're unanimous on that. Thank you very much. That's carried. And I think we might as well just turn it right over to Chris. Unless Derek, you want to say anything? I think, Chris, you're going to continue on from the other day. Appreciate it. And Chris.
Excellent. Thank you, Your Worship. And it's great to be with Council again. So this is the second workshop for the strategic plan refresh. And our agenda today is to do a few things. One is to review the what we came out of the last workshop with respect to the vision and values. We are going to spend about 15 minutes on that. Then what we want to do is get down our mission statement. We'll spend about 15-20 minutes on that. And then we'll just quickly walk through the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis that we did together at our January workshop. Make sure that there aren't any additions or changes to that, and use that as the frame to discuss our strategic goals. The strategic goals being the pillars of the strategic plan. And we'll spend the bulk of our time on that, and then we'll give you a bit of a preview to coming attractions for our third workshop next week. So, Your Worship, that's our agenda for today. And where I'd like to start, Lexi, if we can start on slide 4 to go over what we agreed to, or what we agreed to last session on Friday. In terms of the vision and values, what I'm going to propose to do is on the vision, there has been some offline consideration of that. So I would like to begin with the values and just make sure that council is comfortable with the set of 5 values that have been polished based on our discussion of Friday. And what I would propose to do, Your Worship, is the same kind of approach as I took last Friday, in terms of going through yourself and your council colleagues one by one, just to get your take on the updated set of values that we did. And so last week I began with Councillor Kelly, and I'm going to go to the top of my list, and I'm going to put the mayor right in the hot seat. And so, Your Worship, your perspective on the values as they've been refined coming out of Friday's discussion.
Thank you. The other thing I do notice, I see Councillor Roberts has his hand up. Do you want to go through individual comments right now through all of us, and then they can respond back to this, or how do you want to deal with that, Chris?
I think that is probably the most orderly way, unless there's unless the hand is up on a matter of a question related to what we're focusing on today.
I'll ask.
Thank you. I'm not focusing on values at this time. I just wanted to just comment on the vision statement as documented and re-certify or re-emphasize that I think it's weak. And so we can move now on to values.
Okay. Appreciate that. And I think, Chris, are you going to circle back to vision, or we're going to?
Correct. Because, Your Worship, I know there's been some offline discussion that I've been privy to in terms of further enhancing this statement. And we have a draft, and I'll call on Councillor Mazin to speak to it in just a moment. But let's see if we can get through the values first. Certainly. And appreciate the changes that have been done. For me, there's one simple value that resonates totally, and that's just the respect. I love the respect paragraph or sentence. And if we do nothing else going forward, we respect all of that. And I think that can be our cornerstone for every development. So the others are also in supportive, but I like respect is number one in my mind. I'll leave it at that. Great, thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
I don't have anything to add right now.
Okay. Are you generally comfortable with the set of values, Councillor?
Unfortunately for me, they're just words on paper.
Okay.
Actions make much more sense to me, and that's where I'm at. I don't. I'm struggling with trying to reinvent what we are, and or not reinvent what we are, but essentially we're just putting pretty words together, and we've used these pretty words for years. And I don't know that much along the line with Gord is that I don't even know that our vision is very strong. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm not trying to be negative. It's just very difficult for me to try to even do this when so many things are not being taken care of at this time. It's very challenging for me.
Okay. No, and that's fair. And Councillor, we're getting to the action phase today with the goals, and then next week the initiative. So hopefully that'll allow a lot of your thoughts to come to bear. Councillor Hayes.
Thank you. Good job on the respect paragraph. I think you caught what we were talking about exactly. Just to touch on what Councillor Edwards had said at the last one, the courageous leadership, I'm a little bit, I think that the courageous could probably not be there. I think it's something that people will read and have a little chuckle about. So if that would be.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Zavitz.
Maybe on mute.
Yeah, Councillor Zavitz, you may be on mute.
That's too bad. That was great. Listen, I'm hearing. I'm generally fine with the values as I see them today, here and now. I just am concerned that the vision piece. I'm hearing dissension. We haven't got any kind of consensus on vision. So I'm wondering if the talking about values right now is a little premature. So, that'd be my thought. I'm certainly prepared to speak more on the vision piece, as I think a number of folks have spent some time on it since last week. Thank you.
Absolutely, and we'll get to that after the values. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, I won't say too much other than I still don't like courageous leadership. I think it's everybody will laugh at it, but anyway, that's my view on everything else. I can live with. A vision statement is weak, but we'll leave it at that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Mason.
Sorry, I was laughing a little bit at my predecessor there. I agree on the courageous leadership. I think it's inherent in the word leadership. So I would just take courageous out. And otherwise, I think you did a good job of capturing a lot of what we talked about. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. Just give me a second here. Okay, so I'm just going to start off by saying, yes, these are words on paper, but the next very tangible thing we're going to have to do along the line is to, for each of these little pieces of the values, is to put measurable objectives and implement a meaningful and tracking system and appoint someone accountable to make sure that this occurs over the next 4 years or whatever. We just should not be just our values that are a nice little glossy and put aside. Now, under respect, we have transparent, accountable governments, administrative processes, open and meaningful community engagements, inclusion of a community perspective. And those are the words right now. We have what I've viewed in 2 years, and we are really falling behind or lacking any respect or from a portion of the community, and we've got to get that done. Under excellence, environment must be first in that list, then governments, and then delivery. We have all said that it is environment first, so we must be excellent in the environment, we must be excellent in the governance, and we must be excellent then on delivery. Order is important. I think enough's been said to courageous, and I don't think we're facing any danger or life-threatening issues here. Resilience, the value is defined, but other than that, there's no value in this statement. What would be the measurable result in the definition that is under resilience? Under sustainability, it's environmental and economic list should be listed first. Without either of these, Muskoka as we know it does not exist. Move services to people to the end. We have a simple task in our township. It's well known by many. So the service part's down. Sustainability of our vision is up in our vision statement. It is not is a nature and the culture, and nature is I guess is under environment. And those are basically my comments.
Great, thanks.
Value.
And Lexi and Caitlin will note the how we're going to measure this to bring it back when we do talk about performance measures in our last workshop session. I think it's an excellent point, Councillor. Councillor
Well, before we go on though.
Yes.
My point on resilience, that is defined by our rugged and healthy natural environment and community culture and traditions. What would be the measurable there?
Yeah, and
like what's the action? Like you got a definition for resilience. What do we mean? Take it right out, resilience then.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jeglowitz.
Thank you. I assume we're not dealing with vision, but I'll just put my 2 cents in anyway. If the word character includes environment, then I'm comfortable with it. Getting to the values, I agree with the comments on excellence, that the environment should be first and change the order.
Okay.
I can I see the argument for removing courageous, although I'm not hung up on it. I also see what's being said about resilience. To me, I don't understand what that's trying to tell people. Actually, the word resilience, I don't even know that I understand. Other than that, I think you've done a great job of shortening down the wording on the values, but keeping the core themes there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bridgman.
Thank you. I agree to take out courageous, and I'm good with the rest of it. Thank you.
I think it's almost unanimous to get rid of courageous, so we will get rid of courageous. Councillor Kelly.
Sorry. All right. I'll stay mute on the vision because I have had a sneak preview of what we can talk about a little bit later on.
Yeah.
I think the values are fine. I think the headers for the values are fine. The headlines: respect, excellence, leadership, courageous leadership, resilience, and sustainability. I think those are fine. I'm not 100% convinced that the descriptor that follows the header matches. And I think to follow on what Councillor Jaglowitz said, the one on resilience about rugged, healthy, natural environment, I'm not exactly sure how to make that applicable to the guiding principles or values that we as a council are going to display in pursuing the vision, but maybe we can tweak that a bit. Two more comments. I think courageous actually is a pretty necessary descriptor somewhere, because I think if there's one thing we truly have missed in the last 2 years, it's courageous leadership. We are independent contractors. We exercise our free will and mind, and we vote our conscience. But too often, and I'm probably as guilty as anybody, I think we sometimes slide to the easy side rather than take the tough decisions that may be more difficult to explain or harder to rationalize. So I think probably good leadership, excellent leadership implies courageousness, but I don't mind having it called out because I think it's missing here.
Okay.
And the other thing, and this is just a more general comment, we're giving up a lot of time here for this, and hopefully the end result will be a product that we can be proud of and that we can be, we can rely on and we can share. And I'm increasingly disappointed by hearing that it's just words on a piece of paper. If it's just words on a piece of paper, you ought to just exit the meeting right now. I'm looking to get better as a council. I'm looking to find a way to work better together, to share values, to find common goals, to find a common vision. And this, if this is too much or a waste of time, then what are you doing here? I'm not going to call out any names, but because I do respect these, fellow councillors, but I'm looking for, especially from someone who's been around the block a couple of times. I'm only 2 years at this. And if you've been around a term or two and you can add value and help council generally improve its effectiveness, I'd welcome everybody to stop saying it's just words and try and make it better words if that's really the problem. And on that, I'm going on mute.
Thanks, Councillor Kelly. So out of this discussion, then, here's what I'm going to propose. I'm going to propose that we remove the descriptor courageous before the word leadership. I think we can work that word into the definition if nobody objects. What we'll do as well under excellence, we'll put environment first. And we can do the same under sustainability and move services to people to the last part. I'm going to say, let's keep resilience on the page. And if we find when we get to the measurement session, which is our last session, that it still is something that is too nebulous, then we can take it off at that point. But that's what I would propose we do in terms of at least nailing down the values at this point. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll move on to the vision. And Lexi, we heard several comments about the vision already. What I do want to share is a vision statement that has come together kind of in between the sessions. And Councillor Mason, is it okay if I ask you to just speak to this and the the genesis of it, and how you feel it, kind of captures what the vision is for the town.
Yes, thank you, Chris. So leaving Friday, and having done these types of things before, it can be one of the more difficult things, is trying to actually corral everybody's thoughts and understanding about what is the future, or where are we heading. And I was recalling in my very early days of the election cycle, and it was one of my points, saying it's really, having almost a rallying cry or a vision for this township was something that I heard and I talked about quite a bit. So it was really challenging me on Friday, because I wasn't finding I was able to articulate in words really what it was that we were trying to preserve and protect. And so I spent quite a bit of the weekend probably in that more, I'm going to say, emotional state of anybody who's had to sell the family cottage will fully understand and appreciate. It's probably one of the most difficult decisions people make. I'm certainly not unique in that statement. But by such, you also have such an emotional and passionate attachment to this place. And so there were a few of my colleagues who were also trying to articulate this. And I'm not sure if it falls and lands in the land of a vision, except it was forcing me to really get comfortable in my own way with what I wanted this township. And I think that's my role, is to bring at least my thoughts or perspective forward. And so I started with the place of really, what am I, why did I run? And what do I think this place could and would I like it to look like for future generations? Like, what does that really mean? So for my kids, so in 20 years, and I wrote it down, honestly, I hope that my kids have the same luxury I've had, where they can come with their family and friends and jump in clean water, just jump off the dock, that they have the opportunity to hop in a boat and maybe go and enjoy a night with friends, over at their cottage, or drive their boat and see their mom sitting on their dock. They can go and have dinner at a Turtle Jack's, or a Turtle Jack's of the future. They can go maybe to see a ski show, right? There are so many things. And really, the other part to this, I hope in 20 years, is that we've done our part. We've created the conditions to allow these communities that we live in, the ones that we cherish and we talk about, allow them to thrive. And we're in the midst of seeing communities that are suffering through change. And the world is changing around us. And so it's incumbent upon us to say, okay, in 20 years, what is it we want? And then come back to. So a lot of the words like preserve and protect are really inherently saying let's not change. But I think the reality is there's going to be enhancements, is a word that we've used. And so I can get comfortable with that concept. But there is this essence. So anyways, I drafted this up, which Chris has kindly indulged me by putting on the screen. I'm not attached to the exact words or the anything else, other than what I'm trying to say is there's this attachment to our place that we call the Muskoka Lakes, that we all feel. It will all be slightly different for each and every one of us, but we're all choosing to be here. And so somehow to be able to put that into words would be wonderful. And then the other thing in this is I really want to make sure whether it's thriving communities, I've tried to spend some time thinking about other words that could be used, is it strengthening communities? Are we really looking to make sure that those that are here and are the fabric of our society are being set up for the future? So things like connectivity are really important. And I know we will get to that kind of conversation in the strategies, but it was something that I just couldn't get my head around on Friday. And I've spent quite a bit of time trying to put into words. I'm certainly not an expert at it. And I love everybody else's thoughts and perspectives. And I appreciate all of you giving me the time to maybe get up on my soapbox. But really, and I can get around what we have drafted a little bit with maybe some tweaking, the other statement. But I just, if anybody else has listened to the song My Muskoka Now, my colleague Gord Roberts reminded me of that a little while ago. And it really is talking to what I think we're all feeling. And My Muskoka Now is coming up and enjoying a beautiful natural environment, but it's also about all the social connections that we have, because you just watch that video and it's about people coming together. So thank you for indulging me. I'll let others speak now.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor, and thank you for the extra time that you have put in. I quite liked it. But again, this has to come from you, and it has to be something that everybody can rally around. And so I'm going to start with Councillor Kelly in your reaction to the proposed wording put on the table by Councillor Mason, and get your thoughts on it.
Well, thank you for that. I'm actually trying to find, I had been blessed with this earlier version of this, I believe, and I'm just trying to find it because I thought it was actually better. But I can't seem to find it or haven't found it yet. I'm just looking for it. I think it was, I've abandoned the notion that it needs to be 3 words or less. I've embraced this kind of descriptive approach. I like the generations gathered concept. I think it's a great way to summarize a lot of things. And you know, my view, I don't like being told what to do. So I like being invited to do things though. And what I like about this is that it's an invitation for the reader to impute their own version of reality into this. You can read it. You don't have to be told that it's all about wakeboarding and frying marshmallows. It's enjoying recreation, however you've done that in the past, however you hope to do it in the future. So I like being, it's an invitation to populate the whole thing with your own memories and your own feelings and your own spirit, which I think is a lot more valuable and a lot more important than being told how to like it and why you should like it. I just think that there's a couple extra words in here that don't look familiar. So I was going to look for an earlier note that I received from Councillor Mazan and see where the difference is. I'll come back to you.
Okay, and what I'll counsel is let's not let perfection be the enemy of the good here. We still have a process, and it can be a work in progress as we go through the process. We don't have to nail it 100% just now, but if the sentiment and the themes and the emotion are right in this, that's I think what we're looking for. Councillor Bridgman.
Thanks, Chris. I really like this. I guess we don't want to wordsmith this. I would be really happy with taking out "these are cherished and will be protected." I think you can say history and small town character, comma, protected while ensuring thriving communities, just to shorten it a little bit. But I do really, really like this. This speaks to the heart more than anything else for me. So
Great.
That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Councillor Bridgman. Councillor Jagowitz.
Thank you. I'm now starting to get used to having things, having alternate wording sprung on me during a meeting. And that's what I would say. I'm not saying I have a comment whether this is good or bad. I did not have the opportunity to see this ahead of time. And therefore, like Councillor Masden, I think I need time to think about it. So I really don't have any comments. I see there are thoughts in there of the original one. However, it is a totally different approach. And I just need time to think about it. It would have been much better had this been circulated ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. I like this. It talks about generations. So it brings, as Councillor Kelly was saying, when you're in Muskoka, you think of your generations and the values and what you love about Muskoka. It talks about the need to protect what we have, that in 50 years, it is what we want it to be or what we think it should be. And I like the final part, thriving communities, because when I read into that, I think of the social aspects for people that live here full time, and a thriving community. So I like it. I guess we could shorten it by removing cherished. These are cherished, but I believe that we need to leave in protect for generations while ensuring thriving communities. That's wordsmithing.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mason, I'm going to skip you because you kicked us off on this. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Although what I'd like to see is our other original vision statement, because I was talking with somebody on the weekend and they said, you know, once you set a vision statement, you shouldn't be changing it all the time. And if I go back and I talk to somebody in their late 80s and that complaining about the water skiers out there because they used to canoe, well, the kids don't canoe with the same anymore. So it's changing in generations. I've seen it from my wife's parents to ours, to our kids, to our grandkids. So there's always a changing in there. So some of these words could be taken out and that I can live with it. And that, like I say, because everyone I talk to, they have a different vision for the area. And I'd like to see it set beside our original vision statement.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Zavitz? You may be on mute, Councillor.
I guess I was unmuted. Good, there we go. Listen, again, to you, Chris, again, you got a tough job here. I don't think there are any bad words about Muskoka, and I'm a little, quite honestly, I was ready to move into phase 2, and here we are stuck in phase 1 at the very beginning of this process, wrestling over wordsmithing. And, you know, I am concerned. I think that if next session, Councillor whomever comes up with another concept, we're gonna be revisiting this thing till 2022. So I was fine with where we were, quite honestly, and I don't understand. Councillor Mazan and I have spent some time talking about this, and we've even had various itinerations of what you see on the screen right now. But I don't understand why we're going back to the beginning. I don't understand, Chris, why you've selected one of the 9 councillors and mayor to put up a new vision after 2+ hours a few days ago. For what that's worth.
Okay. No, in this one was shared with me. I thought I'd give it the opportunity to breathe in front of council. And so I trust the process. I think we're going in a good direction here. And I promise that we'll get on to session 2 very shortly. Councillor Hayes.
Thank you. The only thing I would change is where generations live and gather in a breathtaking natural environment, because where generations gather sounds very transient to me. So I want to respect the people that are actually living here as well and have been living here for generations. So other than that, I'm fine with it, but it should be generations live and gather.
Okay, that's an excellent suggestion. Thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. Again, I thought we were moving on. So all of the work I did is words that wouldn't be inserted in the vision. I think the old one is going to do its job. This one's fine too.
Okay.
Again, I was looking forward to moving on to stage 2.
Yep.
And doing that particular homework. I didn't know that we were going backwards, so I can't wrap my head around trying to change any of these words at this moment.
Thank you. Mayor Harding.
Thank you, and thanks to Councillor Mazan. You know, the one thing I realize about a vision is we have 10 people, and clearly we all have 10 slightly different visions. So we're trying to find some common ground, and it is this council's vision of where we are going to go and our choice to either dust off where we were and or enhance, so to speak, going forward. And yes, there are words on a page, but it also gives us all something to be held accountable to, which is Councillor Roberts' concern. So I like always making sure we have the right words and vision. And I do realize that our current vision statement doesn't even use the environment. So that is clearly a major add that as we move forward. My quick comments, I like Councillor Bridgman's comments. I don't think we really need the words, these are cherished and will be. I think if you actually start the sentence, protected for future generations, provides more emphasis on the protection of the history, which I really like. So just a strong, bold, protected for future generations, I think is important. The only thing that Councillor Mazan talked about was, the social aspect, and I'm not sure whether there's a way to incorporate, because Muskoka is a very social place. And if it be meeting at the curling club or meeting at Turtle Jacks in Port Carling or meeting at the golf course or wherever it is, that is one of the unique characters that define Muskoka Lakes more so than any other small lake. You go to some of the small lakes in Manitowoc or Perry Sound or in the Kawarthas, and you don't get, I'll use the word amenities that are around that are here. And I would really hate to lose as we go forward. We're trying to redevelop Cleveland's House, and everyone's disappointed that Pie isn't there this summer because it was a cornerstone for eating and vacationing. So, and a destination. I know Councillor Jagowitz, his away from a home office is the JW Marriott. Those are amenities that are unique to Muskoka Lakes. So I don't know whether we can tweak a little bit just to add social and amenities. Those would be my two comments, and a greater emphasis on protected that maintains that history.
Okay, great. So here's what I'm going to say on this one so that we can move forward. I'm going to say that let's let this stand as the draft. We'll have a chance to refine it. We still have to take it out to the public and get their input. So no doubt, when we come together after that part of the process is done, we'll be continuing to refine it. But I think the sentiments of most councillors, if not all of you, are captured in this statement. And again, this isn't your only kick at the cat, but let's leave this as draft. I would propose that we add live and gather to reflect residents that do live here year round. And Caitlin and Lexi, let's take note of some of the other pieces of concern so that we can revisit this after the public consultations to factor in things like the social nature of the community, the protection of the history, and maybe looking at removing the term cherish. Okay. Good work, everybody. This is excellent, and Councillor Mason, thank you for this. What we'd like to do now is we finish off the vision, mission, values by actually focusing on the mission. So, Lexi, if we can go to slide 9. In our January session, we arrived at a mission statement that was as follows. The Township of Muskoka Lakes Council, residents, and staff will be stewards of the environment, set clear expectations of each other, and work together to build our community. So a mission statement at its heart is, basically a statement that talks about how you're going to operationalize the work, how you're going to operationalize your achievement of the vision. And so this is a strong statement, but I know that it was raised last week that there were still some concerns. So what I'd like to do is go through and spend about 10-15 minutes on this, and then we'll get to the goals. Mayor Harding, can I start with you on your reaction to what came out of the first workshop and any concerns or amendments you'd like to see?
I guess out of the first workshop and everything, I thought we were moving in the right direction. And I guess, I'm going to reemphasize that unless we have some words on a paper, unless we have a roadmap, we are going to be 10 people going in 10 different directions. So, and I am obviously at the will of council here as we move forward as a collective. There's a reason there's 10 of us around the table and not one of us or 3 of us. And we may not all agree, but when 6 or 7 or 8 of us agree in the same direction, we're moving in the right direction, obviously.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
Sorry, if you could come back to me, I'm just trying to wrap my head around a particular paragraph.
Okay, no problem. Councillor Hayes.
Stewards of the environment, I think, needs to be a little bit stronger, just the way that I'm looking at it. Other than that, it's fine.
Okay. Excellent, thanks. Councillor Zavitz.
That seems fine to me.
Okay. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, I can do it.
Councillor Mason.
I like this. I had it before I had seen what we'd written. I had written something slightly different just as I was drafting this vision to see how things would flow together. And it was a little less. It was just to pursue the vision with excellence and integrity.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. See, I'm really not fond of this. I don't think it's, it just mentions the environment and build our communities. Since like stewardships, there's so many definitions for that. I think it should be reworked. I think it should be different. I did come up with some thoughts. And the thoughts I have for the mission statement would be simply environment, economy, and social responsibilities is our primary focus and concern. That's all I have to offer.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jagowitz.
Thank you. I think I addressed this last meeting, but I'll repeat it. I'm okay with this, but I would replace the word our, O-U-R, second last word, with the words a sustainable and thriving community. So that it would read that we work together to build a sustainable and thriving community. That's all I have to say on this. However, I have had some time to think about the vision statement that we passed by. I did not comment. I would appreciate an opportunity to comment on it either later in this meeting or at the beginning of the next. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bridgman.
Thank you. I like this. I would actually just, I guess it's wordsmithing, but I would like to put in the Township of Muskoka Lakes Council residents and staff will continue to be stewards, because I think there's a lot that has already been done in that of the environment, and near the end, work together to strengthen our diverse communities. I would like to recognize the fact we have permanent, non-permanent, we have impoverished, we have wealthy. It's very different, and I'd like to strengthen all of them. So that's, but nobody else likes it. I'm good with this.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor. And last but not least, Councillor Kelly.
And my only comment is that you can be a good steward or a bad steward. So I think we need to put a qualifier in there.
Okay.
Excellent stewards of the environment or something like that.
So here's where
Chris, I know you don't, Councillor Nishikawa, I'm not sure you have your hand up if you want to circle back to her, and I just want to provide one quick comment as well as I've listened to some comments.
Thanks for that reminder, Your Worship.
Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. So the reason why I guess I'm just not putting the words in the right location in the layout of things. I wanted to add some other words, and I don't know that they would necessarily fit into what this mission statement says. So for instance, I like the word that we would be doing, basically preserve and appreciate the environment was one thing that I somehow wanted to fit in. And more importantly, what that does is it boosts the economy and prosperity of our township. And essentially our council would provide coordination and leadership or strategic leadership for all of these things that we're trying to add. I think that a direction, like where I'm struggling is that in some of these things, we're talking about an overall, what the public may perceive. I think that's a little different than what our mission is. I think we need to be a little stronger in saying, again, for instance, what are we providing? What are we trying to accomplish? And what are the most important things that we haven't gotten there yet? And that's what I'm struggling with. I am actually struggling with understanding what Muskoka Lake is anymore. In fact, are we just providing good foods and garbage pickup, or is our township in particular providing more? And that's where I'm struggling to find out what message we're trying to give to the public of what we actually want to provide, I guess, with their tax dollars. So again, I just think that we should be using more words like preserving the environment, and then again, a stronger word saying about our leadership in particular.
Okay,
Councillor Mazan, I think, had a question.
thank you.
Thanks. And I'm not sure if it's as much a question as just an addition. And so I'm looking at the point number 2 under your bullet points, and it says it was mentioned that there is a need to make the mission statement more actionable and explicitly communicate how the Township will work with the community through its values, which seems like a lot of words actually, as I read that out loud. So a mission statement, and Chris, perhaps you can help me on this. These should be how we are going to deliver against the vision
Correct.
of what we're trying to accomplish, correct?
Yes.
So words like, maybe that's why I was getting a little bit shorter in my thoughts, was to pursue the vision, right? That we have just come up with, whatever it is. And this is how we're going to do it and how we will do it. And I just had chosen 2 words, but I see that there's different things in here. It's excellence and integrity. And so I just wonder if there's, so I see here, we seem to be reinforcing that, yes, we want to be stewards of the environment and we want to strengthen communities in our mission statement. And I'm just asking, is this the place to do that? Or is this the place to say, here is the behaviors or the actions we will take in order to deliver against our vision? Help me with that one.
Yeah, it's the how, right? So if our vision is, as we talked about it, how are we going to do it on a day-to-day basis? Well, we're going to do that because we're going to do that by being excellent stewards of the environment. We're going to have clear expectations and accountabilities for each other, and we're going to work together to build a sustainable, thriving, and to build a sustainable, thriving, and diverse community. Is the way it's structured right now. It's not, when we talk about the how, it's not, in finite detail, but it is, at the end of the day, are we doing things, are we operationalizing our achievement of the vision by being excellent stewards of the environment, being clear and accountable to each other, and working together to build our community.
Is that good for you, Councillor Mazan?
Yes, and of course, I'm now going to have to think about this one a little bit further, but yes, thank you.
Okay.
I know Councillor Nishikawa wants to make another quick comment, and Chris, if you
Yes,
can.
please.
The only, as I'm listening to some of the conversation, the only thing that, and it came through Councillor Mazan's comments about through its values, which I agree with, and we talk about stewards of the environment, set clear expectations. I'm wondering if the words, just to add, clear and respectful expectations, understanding that there are always two sides to every decision of which we make.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we don't, or some people don't always respect the other side. So I think that's integral. Councillor Nishikawa, oh, your hand is down. So I think we're probably good, Chris.
Okay. Okay. So here's where I think we're landing then. And again, it's a working draft. It still has to go through the meat grinder that will be a public input. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's just we're going to have other perspectives brought to the table, which council will digest at the end of the consultation period and look at some of these things fresh again. But what I would suggest is that the working mission statement, it sounds like it's the Township of Muskoka Lakes Council residents and staff will be excellent stewards of the environment, set clear and respectful expectations of each other, and work together to build a sustainable, thriving, and diverse community.
Chris, do you mind saying that again, but just a bit slower so I can just get that up on the screen?
Oh, I was gonna go faster. The Township of Muskoka Lakes Council, residents and staff will be excellent stewards of the environment, set clear and respectful expectations of each other, and work together to build a sustainable, thriving, and diverse community. A sustainable, thriving, and diverse community. Any objections with this being our working mission statement?
Don't see anybody's hand up, so I think we're good.
Okay. Excellent work, team. This is excellent and very good contributions and discussion. So the next thing we want to do now, and Councillor Nishikawa, we do want to now focus on, okay, so what are our goals going to be under this strategic plan? And when we're talking about goals, we're talking about the broad themes or the specific themes that will be the pillars of this strategy. So those things that we're going to prioritize and focus on. We want to set things at the goal level today, and next week we'll be getting into initiatives under each goal. So what do we need to do to actually achieve the goals that we set or believe need to be part of our strategic plan? Given that we have about an hour together, as you'll recall at the workshop, we did go through a bit of a SWOT exercise in order to provide some context around which we would be thinking about goals. So what are those things that we want to leverage and or mitigate or opportunities that we want to really take advantage of through our definition of the goals. And so what I'm going to propose that we do is we're going to go through each counselor again, just on the SWOT, and to see if there's anything that you would add or you think has changed since January, and then we're going to get into the goals. Okay. So I'm going to begin with His Worship first. These are just the summary distillations, but is there anything that in the SWOT analysis with the benefit of 6 months isn't sitting well with you, or you think something is missing that it became apparent maybe because of the COVID experience?
I actually jumped ahead to your, because at one point I think page 19 of the current deck or 20 of the current deck is sort of the overview. And the only operational threat potentially that we haven't mentioned and might be, you know, it's always a strength and a weakness is our environment. And I think with a changing climate change, with potential of flooding, all that kind of stuff, that does have a threat towards us. And we might want to identify that as we move forward. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and what we can add that to that is definitely a threat, particularly for communities like yours. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I'm sorry, it was just the mayor's comment made me start thinking about the threats a little differently. And I realize that that's not very strong in my opinion, and I don't know what the right words would be to use. Everything else is pretty much fine.
Okay.
I guess I would wonder if we could actually, or I could hear from others about our threats, because I think that there are more threats than, yes, and the environment is a huge threat to us, but I think that there is, I'll just say, a takeover happening. And I think it's going to be a lot quicker. I happen to have lived through a lot of this when I lived in British Columbia, and I've always been concerned about things are happening very fast, and we are reactive as opposed to being proactive. Mm-hmm. So I myself am actually going to spend a lot more time on the threats and actually trying to identify more things that we could have a further discussion on.
Okay. And when you say takeover, may I just ask you to elaborate on that? What sense?
Sure. So, we're already seeing it where if Muskoka was known as resorts, tourism, all of that, and the request or the desire for us to have fewer resorts, fewer tourism, in that way, that's a threat. It's a threat when developers are coming in and changing the landscape considerably, and us not being able to act on that. And in our case, I think it's a threat that we do not have population growth and what that looks like.
That we don't have population growth.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. No, that's very helpful. We can certainly add those. Councillor Hayes.
Okay. I think one of our strengths should be our volunteers. Because if you look at the core strengths, it talks about staff. It doesn't talk about the actual people that are out in the communities.
So our community-based volunteers?
Yeah. And under threats, I think you're looking at climate change, changes in how people view what they want, what their wants and needs are from a vacationing area. Certainly the cottagers of 30 years ago, their wants and needs are much different than the wants and needs of the cottagers now.
Yeah.
And I think another threat is the underground economy. Not so much with, I'm just talking about short-term rentals right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you. I think in a more general observation of all four of these quadrants, they're very light, they're very spare. I think we need a session just to simply to do strengths outweigh our weaknesses, etc. What are those pieces for us to have the strength of Muskoka Lakes being our staff? To someone else, it could be the best pickerel in Ontario. So, I mean, to get into this is a ginormous piece, and I think we need to. I can see bullet points under strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and then we can prioritize those. Or perhaps that's where you're going, Chris.
We can certainly get there, Councillor. What I like to do is why we do this, and it's an imperfect. It's imperfect, other than to say it does help start framing what we think we need to address and how that then materializes into either the goals or particular initiatives that we need to need to undertake. When it comes to implementation planning around what what our strategic pillars are and our initiatives under each of those, that's where we get into, okay, how do we turn weaknesses into strengths or mitigate weaknesses? How do we exploit opportunities while at the same time mitigating threats? And so that's where a bit of a risk analysis is done in order to understand how we position ourselves for success. Councillor Edwards.
I agree. Our strengths are our volunteers. One of our weaknesses is we don't treat them properly, and that because they're not paid. So, and that why listen to them? They'll come up with some good suggestion, and they get trampled on. I've always worked on the thing that I will always listen. We may not always agree, but at least I listen, and I think that's a strength. By listening, you'll get what the community want. Threats are major developers coming up here to make a quick buck and then leave, and they really don't care what the environment looks like afterwards, whether in that. But we always have to listen to them,
yep.
And we have to sort things out. So, there's so many as far as opportunities and that. It's just at this point, I think Councillor Zabit said it right, where we list all the strengths and weaknesses and everything else like that, because there's so many. And that's why I was weak on maybe the vision statement, because like I talked to somebody and their vision is completely different than somebody else's. So that's why I just kind of sit back and listen and try and give the people what they want.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chris. As I'm looking at this, and I apologize because I probably did the same thing as the mayor, which is I kind of started skipping ahead. So I'm looking at this again, and my initial reaction is that it's heavy on what the staff is, from a staff perspective, which I think is obviously an important one. Just to add to the threats, I don't want to repeat too much, but I would add that the pandemic has really highlighted that we are in a rural setting, and now everybody's talking about the importance of connectivity, but that will be something that continues to be something that is important for the next generations. As Councillor Hayes, climate change, I like the additions that she added to the threats. Strength, I just put in there as a starting place anyways. It's really what we just talked about with our vision. We have an iconic brand, our natural environment, and our unique cultural experience that we're all trying to grapple with and try and say this is actually something that we want. That is our strength, or at least part of it. And then weakness, and again, whether this is a weakness, a threat, that's up to you to determine, but we often have, we have our eggs a lot in one basket here. And I know on the economic development side of things that we've talked about, the need to be responsible in how we diversify our economy to help keep us sustainable. And it needs to be done in a very responsible way so that we're respecting the environment. But I don't know if that's a threat, a weakness, or maybe an opportunity.
It's both a threat. It's both a threat and an opportunity. There's two sides.
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
it's everywhere. So, but I probably will come back with more as I see the next evolution of this, Chris. But thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Roberts.
Yes, thank you. I'm okay with the strengths and the weaknesses and opportunities and threats. Just want a couple of comments there. I think throughout the deck that you have there, you should replace all references to Airbnb to short-term rentals. Okay. All right, just an observation. One of the threats we have is that I perceive is that we are at the pleasure of the district council. And I've been told by my district councilor peers or friends on the council that district council don't always support the unanimous position of our township councilors. And that to me is a threat. The economic development, I got thinking, which is a threat when Councillor Hayes brought it up, and what I immediately thought of was the two sides of the page. The first page, when developing, is exactly compliant to the what the bylaws and the building codes and everything like that pertains to. The next page, as soon as we're out the door and signed off, or they're signed off, then there's the rejig of the whole footprint. So that's a threat that has to be addressed.
So development workarounds after approvals?
After approvals, and I was reminded of one just the other day, of what the examples of that, and also and that applies to the threat that our trades they're put in, is if you can't do this for me, I'll find someone else that will. So to stay in business, they will do what the customer demands, and it threatens us.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Jagowitz.
Thank you, Chris. I'll try not to repeat what others have said. I agree with much of it. However, I would like to build a bit on a comment that Councillor Roberts made. And that brings me to either weaknesses or threats. And that is our relationship with the district, both financial and in planning matters. I believe we need to strengthen our senior management team in order to better relate and promote township priorities and get better value for the total taxpayer dollars of our taxpayers. I think that's an area, and those go hand in hand. So we need to strengthen the talent we have here so we can better deal with that big item with the district, so that we're treated in a fairer fashion and our taxpayers' dollars are respected.
Great, thank you. Councillor Bridgman.
Thank you, Chris. I agree with the being under the district is an issue. It's either a weakness or a threat. I don't agree that we need to strengthen our staff here, because I think it's a structural power issue, in my humble opinion. The other thing, and I'm not going to repeat anything else except for threats, the first thing that came to mind for me is broadband, because it is a huge threat for us 20 years in the future. If we don't have complete broadband here, we won't have an economy. We are going to have students who can't even cope in this world because e-learning's taking place, and we have so many who are unable to access that. So that's my added one to many of the other comments.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Kelly.
Okay, I gotta be honest with you, I think these are all pretty weak. I think these are very internally focused, and I actually went back to make sure we weren't specifically identifying a SWOT on the administrative structure or the administrative structure of the township, and we're not. If we're talking about the township as a whole and its threats and weaknesses and opportunities, and the best thing we have to say as a weakness is the internal strategic coordination between departments, I just find that just impossible to believe. So I think we need to revisit what we're trying to say here. If we're really trying to identify strengths and weaknesses of this particular township in all of its bounty, I think we missed the mark. And the other thing I think we clearly missed on opportunities is this notion that we are somehow this scale of justice, balancing environmental concerns on one hand and economic opportunity on the other. Because quite frankly, I don't think anybody got elected on a balance between the economy and the environment. We're here because we value the environment, and quite frankly, because we think that all efforts to protect the environment result in a much stronger economy down the road. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so before we move on to the goals, just a quick summary. Under threats,
Chris, if I may, just one comment. Councilor
Yeah,
Mazan's had her hand up for a little bit. I think she wants to add something potentially to.
Sorry for
Councilor Mazan.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, it might have already been stated, but something that has been highlighted to me too is the financial sustainability. And I somewhat referenced it when saying I want to ensure that my kids in 20 years can not only afford this place, but it's just become a sustainable place to be. And that is going to be a relook, I think, just at our infrastructure. I don't think it's unique to the Township of Muskoka Lakes, but we need to be sure we're grappling with what we have here and how do we set ourselves up. And I think we've got plans in place. I just wouldn't want that to be missed. I don't know where I guess that's a weakness or a threat.
It's a threat. So we have the affordability of living there as a threat, but we'll add the financial sustainability of the township as well in order to address any
right.
Or
okay, thank you.
By the nature of aging infrastructure and what pressure that puts on the town financially. We'll also add under threats climate change, flooding, the erosion or degrading of the natural environment associated with that threat. We'll add the threat around demands or expectations for less or fewer resorts and tourisms, but also development changing the natural environment and landscape. We'll add a lack of population growth as a threat. We'll add connectivity as, I would say, both an opportunity and a threat, and that became particularly acute out of COVID. An opportunity and a strength is the iconic brand of the area. Weakness is that our economic development eggs are in one basket. So the opportunity is to diversify the economy in a responsible way. The other threat and the threat and the opportunity is the relationship with the district, particularly from a financial and a planning perspective as well. We'll change Airbnb to short-term rentals. The affordability I spoke to, and I do take the councillor's point on the balance of environment versus the economy, but I think we're going to get into what that relationship is when we get now into the goals and the initiatives, so we can articulate those things. Is there anything else that I missed? Councillor, I also took I think it was Councillor Edwards or Councillor Roberts' point about council listening being a strength. Okay, so now let's get into the goals. And so, Lexi, if we can go to slide 26, we enumerated at our January, or if you want to stay on the. Or if you, I like this slide better. It's visually more appealing. But we came up with 5 core strategic directions or goals at the January workshop, and a lot of these were generated out of precisely the discussions we've had up until now over the last meeting and a half. So what we want to do is speak to you to determine if these still make sense as overarching strategic goals and priority areas for the municipality, or with the benefit of some hindsight and some reflection, we need to refine these or change these altogether. So the 5 goals were to preserve and protect the natural environment, remove internal silos and streamline operations within the corporation, grow Muskoka Lakes year-round viability, particularly from the having a 365 economy, improve the relationship with upper levels of government. So that was the district, but also I would imagine with the province as well, given that they also hold some hammers over municipalities, and then sustaining public infrastructure, which I think speaks to Councillor Mason's point about long-term sustainability and financial viability of the infrastructure that sustains the community. So with that, I'm going to, unless your worship, there are hands up, I'm going to start with Councillor Kelly to get his perspective on whether or not these goals still make sense, or if there are things that are missing or need to be refined. Councillor Kelly?
I think they're okay. I think if they're intended to be sort of rank ordered, I think they're not in a particularly helpful order. Because internal silos should be kind of bottom tier, if you ask me.
Okay.
You know, other than that, I'm okay with them.
Okay. So for your, let me just ask this question, and it's the same question to all councillors. For your remaining time on council, and even, you know, as I hand off to the next council, these make sense as the key strategic areas of focus in collaboration between council, residents, and staff.
Well, and the one that I would sort of get at in the morning to work on would be what looks like number 1, preserve and protect the environment, and what looks like number 3, grow the year-round viability. The rest of the stuff, again, seems very inwardly focused.
Okay.
Public infrastructure less so, but you know, those are the 2 big crusades, if you ask me, the 2 big.
Yeah, and I, you know, I think it's a fair comment, Councillor, in the sense that the internal workings of the corporation and the relationships with government are in ways enablers of the 3 main pillars that you just identified.
And they're less than inspiring. I really wouldn't want to go and tell anybody that that's one of our key focuses is improve relationships with upper levels of government. That's internal politics stuff to me. Okay. But the others are fine. I mean, I just think, like I said, that's why I started out saying if these are rank ordered, then the priority's wrong. But because I think there are a couple here that are head and shoulders above the rest.
No, and that's a fair comment, and we'll take note of that. Councillor Bridgman.
Thank you. I would echo Councillor Kelly's comments that it's the environment, viability, and I would put public infrastructure in there. I think it's a huge challenge for us, dollar-wise, and the other 2 less so. And I'm good with it otherwise.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Jaglowitz.
Thank you. Once again, I would agree that they're the 2 main ones that should be 1 and 2, preserve and grow. And I think I'm going to build on Councillor Kelly's comments on improved relationship with upper levels of government. I think that's misstated. I think it's too general.
Okay.
I think it should be more a focus to improve our relationship and or with the district in particular, because they control it financially and planning wise. They have a great impact on what we can and cannot do and the goals we can achieve. So I think we need to work there to either to have a better situation. And that's, anyway, we'll get into it in more detail when we get to the goals, I assume.
Okay. Great, thanks, Councillor Jaglowitz. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with what's been said about there's 2 or 3 top priorities. I think the silos and streamline operations is just something that needs to be done if it exists by the CAO. So I think it could be taken right off the list.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Mason.
Thank you. I think I had approached it slightly differently. Maybe that's becoming a theme. But I had put things into my own categories. Sorry about that, Chris.
No, don't worry.
I sometimes like to organize my thoughts differently, but I had 3 or 4 categories. One was environment. One was so protect and enhance the environment. And underneath that, then I put, and this is just to make sure it was flowing in my mind, things like the OP, things like defining character, our septic reinspection program. So that gets to the specific initiatives, but anything that we might be able to do to deliver against that goal of protecting and enhancing the environment.
Yep.
The second one, and it's not the same thing as viability, but I had economic development. And because underneath that we had year-round viability is certainly one element, but if we go back to what our economic development strategy currently said to our committee, there is organic growth. So, you know, it's the smart taking care of what's going well today and ensuring we're doing that with an environmental lens attached to that. and then look for ways to promote and pursue other ways to diversify the economy, of which one of them, so the organic growth is looking to do the streamline, or sorry, the year round.
Yeah.
So that was what I had under there. And then the third bucket I had was community. We've talked about strengthening our communities, and then underneath strengthening our communities or community, it's identifying each of the different communities that currently exist here and understanding what we need to do in order to deliver against that. So things like, I think, a service review, connectivity, active living, you know, and now I'm getting into the minutia, but that's just how my brain works. And then the last bucket that I had, and maybe this isn't the right one, I don't know, but is governance. And I think that would talk to things like, how are we doing the operations of the township? So ensuring fiscal responsibility, ensuring that our CAO is working to, you know, streamline the silos and streamline our operations. And I'm not sure if governance is the right title for that, but that's how I had to organize the information.
Yeah, and you know, under governance, certainly your own relationship with yourselves and your committees, and the district relationship can fit under that.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great thinking. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Edwards.
I agree with a lot of it. I would change things around a little bit and move the year-round viability up to number 2. I would put sustain the public infrastructure at number 3, because that's what we have to work on. It's one of our strengths and our weaknesses, and that our strength is the volunteers, as I stated before. Our weakness is the age of the volunteers. We don't seem to be getting the young ones up because they're, you know, they just don't engage. So we'd have to get them engaging with the community. And that, as far as silos and that, you know, I would put that down towards the bottom. Relationship with the upper tier, we've been working on that for years. It's you know, it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. And that, because I've been around for 10 years now. So, but you know, I'm fine with the way they are, but I would just move them in that order. And that, but we have a push now for claiming an environmental emergency, and that, which is fine. I struggle with the word emergency, although it is, and that I would say environmental crisis would be better. And I've talked to people that are in that pushing the environmental emergency. So again, it's wording with some of this. I don't get as involved with the wording as the actual doing.
That's great. Thanks, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you. I think these are, as umbrella goals, I think these are, you know, we've had a lot of discussion about these. I can agree with these in principle. I know you haven't numerized them, if you will, so they are in a random order. I'm fine with preserve and protect, of course. I would suggest, personally, I would remove internal silos. I would change that quadrant to read streamline effectiveness of township operations. I think putting in words like remove internal silos, I'm left to wonder, what are those internal, you know, do we have them? So my point is, on a more positive note, streamline effectiveness of township operations. And the only other point would be on sustained public infrastructure. I would definitely change that to enhance public infrastructure.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Councillor Zavitz. Councillor Hayes.
I would remove the internal silos completely, and I would break out the public infrastructure and the services into 2 separate categories. Okay. Infrastructure is our hardscape. It's our buildings, our roads, and our services are completely different. And our services are something that that's what we provide to our taxpayers. That's what they see the most. That's what they complain the most about. And I think that we really have to work on improving our service. And I think that that would, that the streamlining the operations would come under improving the services. So those would be my thoughts.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. So again, I'm not sure where these would necessarily fit in.
Yep.
I looked at it a little differently than what's been presented. I'm looking at stronger words for myself. I'm looking at in the preservation and protect the environment. I think we're missing a very important part in this, and I would say that in my number of years that I've been involved with the township, we forget to discuss about the wildlife. And I think that's important to put in the preserve and protect the natural environment, including and/or wildlife needs to be part of this discussion,
Okay.
in my opinion. You know, what some of the other things that, along with what Councillor Edwards mentioned, is volunteers, and they, in fact, for me, are part of the vitality of a strong community. And so some of the, like, grow Muskoka Lakes year-round viability, let's use different words. Strong people, strong economy, again, strong communities, and how do you do that? But just grow Muskoka Lakes year-round viability.
Yep.
I think that could be much stronger.
Mhm.
Again, I'm using that word stronger, but let's help grow our people, grow the economy. And I agree that I think it's very important. I don't see this as the discussion about the upper levels of government being strictly the province,
Yeah.
or excuse me, the district. It is, for me, a provincial and federal discussion that needs to be had as well. I noted some great things that have happened in all of the district of Muskoka, but certainly for Muskoka Lakes, where there was when in the days of when we had 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, we got a lot of stuff done. So I think that that's a very important aspect to leave in. Sustain the public infrastructure. Again, I don't even know that it necessarily has to be a separate bullet point. I think it is expected for sure. And it's more about how, I suppose, how that is going to happen. But I don't necessarily think that that particular line, the way that it's written, and I guess I'll have to really think about this more, that it has a lot of value there. I think we could be stronger in that language.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Councillor Nishikawa. Mayor Harding.
Thank you. I don't want to repeat a lot of what many of our councillors have said, and agree in many of them. I'll work through. Number one, I'm not sure we need to actually put numbers to these, because if we put number 1, 2, 3, sometimes we stop at number 1 and we never get to number 2 and 3. We just focus. I believe that all of these should be our focus in everything in which we do. Where we preserve and protect the natural, I wonder if we almost want to add the word cultural environment, because we've been talking a lot about the culture of Muskoka Lakes, and that may be also included in that. The internal silos, and I'll move my way down the list. 6 months ago, when we did this exercise and we had our department heads in the room, we realized there was a number of silos. I want to thank our CAO, because we've already started to eliminate many of those silos. We've combined our planning functions and planning department and our building department under one new environmental, I'm not even going to go down David's new title, Director of Sustainable Services, but that's removing some internal silos that we're all working together. When we look at a goal for this municipality, how do we deliver better services to the public? So things like online permitting. These are all things with these streamlined operations, removal of internal silos so that they're working together, our departments and our functions, which came out of that session 6 months ago. And I truly believe it's still an issue today that we can do a better job of working interdepartmentally and not just for themselves. So I think those are the right words in that we want to improve services. Regarding relations with upper tiers, Councillor Nishikawa said it. This is not just about a relationship with the district. This is about a relationship with the province and the federal government. We're all dealing with Torrance Barrens tomorrow. If we don't have a relationship with the province, we're going to get ignored on Torrance Barrens. If we don't have a relationship with the federal government, thankfully we have a better relationship these days through former Mayor Aitchison in Huntsville, but boating safety and what we do on our federal waterways, all levels of government need to work better. And yes, we need to have a better relationship with our district counterparts and make sure that we are taken care of. Sustained public infrastructure. You know, we made a commitment 6 months ago that we want to continue to deliver certain high levels of services. We want to have arenas. We want to have community centers. That was a commitment. So I think the goals, I believe, are actually bang on, and I just wouldn't prioritize them.
Excellent. So here's where here's where I think.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I add? I just wanted to add something that I didn't, and I think it's important. Is actual the word, you know, somehow putting better words than I'm going to give you, but the need for easily access information within our township.
Sorry, you cut out on after easily. Easily what information, Councillor?
Accessible
Okay.
information. And that's not putting a poster up in the post office or just expecting people to go through the website. Because honestly, the website for me is still problematic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Understood. And that's something a lot of municipalities grapple with. Okay. So here's where I think we're landing. And I want to put this on the table. And then I think instead of going through everybody one by one, let's just have a general discussion on it. What's clear to me is that there is a big three. Wording needs to change and there's some additions, and we can work on that and bring that back to you for the next session. But in terms of the big three, there's the preserving and protecting the natural and cultural environment. There's growing Muskoka Lake's year-round viability or growing Muskoka Lake's economy. And then there's the sustaining public services and infrastructure. Where I think there is some debate, and I must confess, I think there are arguments to say the removing internal silos and the improving the relationship with upper levels of government could actually be initiatives under sustaining public services and infrastructure as opposed to goal statements on their own. And so what I would propose is for discussion right now, would folks be comfortable with having 3 core strategic goals and moving the 2 others as building them out in the next session as initiatives under the public services and infrastructure goal. Now, I must confess I have a bias. I love rule of 3. You know, 5's pushing it in my view. If 3 is manageable, I would suggest these are very strategic categories, and there are a number of initiatives, a number of which Councillor Nishikawa and Councillor Mason and others have shared with us. So I'm quite excited about next week's discussion. But would there be any opposition to narrowing this down to 3 core goals, moving the 2 what are now goals as initiatives, and then taking that into next week to build out initiatives under each of those 3 pillars?
I like that.
I see Councillor Roberts, Jagowitz, and Mazan have their hands up, but I would agree with you as well. Councillor Nishikawa has also got a thumbs up emoji going on to support it.
I love the thumbs up emoji.
Councillor Roberts, you want to comment? Then Jagwitz, then Mazan.
Just very quickly, I agree. I would just, as Councillor Nishikawa suggested, we talk about the environment, but it's also the wildlife and everything that type of stuff. So I'd like to see those. Thank you.
Yeah, and I have a notation here to add "and wildlife" after environment. We'll have to build in the culture piece too, but we'll work on those words for next week.
Councillor Jagwitz.
Thank you. I agree with moving silos behind, but I don't agree with moving relationship with upper governments. I think that is a very important thing, and I think pushing it to the back is a mistake.
Okay, and it's not necessarily moving it back, but it's making it a course, making it a strategic initiative and priority under the goal of sustaining.
I agree. It's moving it back. This is the front page. Okay. I think you have to rethink that. That's only my opinion. Others may disagree.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Jagowitz. And who was the third councillor?
This might be me.
Sorry, Councillor Mazan, then
be...
Councillor Edwards, then Councillor Nishikawa.
Okay, thanks. And through you, I like this. I like having the rule of three is a great one. And I'm not going to be too specific other than the last one. I might just say sustainable public services and infrastructure. Because I think one of the things we have to do is look and say what is sustainable. So that's a wordsmith, but I do like the idea of grouping things in these three. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. I think we should roll it into the three. It makes more sense. As far as the upper and levels of government, that comes under public services because we do service and that, so I can live with that. Even though it may not be front and center, I know all the district councils are working with the upper tier to try and smooth things out. So I don't need it on the page.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I'm wondering, I'm a little bit concerned after listening to Councillor Jagowitz that I think it's very important that we still include the relationship with upper levels of government, and perhaps it could be molded into the sustained public services, because that's usually what they need. We need them for.
Yeah,
but I think it needs to be very clear. Like, I think we don't lose those improving the relationship, because I often people are saying to me, well, what's the province doing about this, or what, sort of thing. And I think those two can be, but I don't want to lose that at this point.
And the proposal, Councillor, is not to lose it, but to make it one of the initiatives under that goal of sustaining public services and infrastructure. So it'll be a work plan item for council and staff coming out of the strategy.
Chris, Councillor Hayes wanted to chime in.
Okay, great.
I'm just wondering if we should change upper levels of government to all other levels of government, because we do want to be working with our peers as well, and I think that that should be included in there.
Yeah, that's I would say that's an excellent point.
Okay, I think we're good to move on.
Okay, so we'll go to the three. We'll fold the two where at the goal level into the initiative level, and we'll craft that so everybody can see it on the page for our next session next Tuesday. Your worship, with that, what I would propose is that we can declare victory. Did a lot of great work today. I'm very proud of the team. And if folks don't object to declaring victory, I'll just talk a little bit about the next session, and then we might be able to put a few more minutes back in your day.
Thank you, and thank you.
So in terms of the next session, we're going to build on the goals and actually begin to populate initiatives that we believe we need to undertake to achieve the goals. that are aligned with the vision of the place as well. And so Councillor Mason and other councillors, have already flagged some things that, what I would appreciate you doing between now and next Tuesday is beginning to think, okay, if these are our 3 goals, what things ought we be doing? So Councillor Mason shared, things around the OP, the septic system, under economic development, the organic growth versus the diversification efforts. It's those types of things that we would be initiatives under each of these goals. So if you can think through what you'd like to see there, particularly, in terms of the public services that the town already provides. Services the town may need to begin to put on its radar and provide in the future, so on and so forth. Maybe give a little bit more depth and character to the how we're going to build relationships and sustain those relationships with both our local lower tier colleagues, our upper tier, and then the senior levels of government in the province and the feds. And so that will be the homework. And so we'll build out each goal, initiatives under each goal. I will confess again, our goal, our opportunity here is not to put a laundry list under each goal, but to be very deliberate in choosing what we believe are the highest priority and highest impact opportunities or initiatives to deliver on those goals. I'm very big on, again, rule of 3, maybe 4 under each of those pillars. So that we don't have 3 goals but 124 initiatives that cease to be strategic and actually cause stress and strain on the organization, as opposed to really focusing in on those things that matter. So and to I believe Councillor Edwards' perspective, thinking through initiatives that can be smart in terms of our ability to be specific about them. Can they be measured? Are they relevant? Are they things that are realistically achievable within a realistic time frame? Are other considerations. So this will be in the homework book. So we'll turn around what we came to a conclusion on today. That will be part of your workbook, so you can refresh yourself on where we've landed on vision, mission, values, and goals. And then next week we'll build out the initiatives.
Thank you. Councillor Jaglowitz has a question.
Yes, Mr. Chair, with your permission, I had asked that I might be able to make a comment on the vision statement, because I did not make one earlier because I'd just seen it. It'll be brief if I have your permission.
Absolutely, Frank, go ahead.
Okay, so if we go back to the vision statement for a second, I'm warming up to it. What I saw put on the screen, we added the words "where generations live and gather." I agree with that. When we go through, it also says we're taking out these are cherished, and just have a statement that they will be protected. And I would add the words "and enhanced," so protected and enhanced for future generations. And then while ensuring thriving communities, change that word to encouraging thriving communities. Those are my comments. If you need me to repeat them, I will. Or have you got them?
Yes, are you okay?
Yep. I'm just, yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor.
Okay. Chris, thank you. Hopefully in the next sort of 24, 48 hours, not to put time frame on you, we can send out the revised deck or just even a shortened version of what we've made some progress on today. And then our homework assignment for next Tuesday. Greatly appreciated. And I just want to thank council. I mean, again, we seem to be going through a lot of this stuff, but without words, without our roadmap, we can't hold ourselves accountable as to what we want to judge and move forward on. So I do appreciate it. And Chris, let me just say, I do appreciate your leadership in this and helping keep 10 of us focused, if you will. So
well, you guys are excellent to work with, and you should be, you don't need me to tell you this, but you should be proud of yourselves. You're making a lot of good progress here, and I think coming together around some very important things.
Okay, great. Thank you, council. We're going to continue on with our daily programming, and that is a resolution that's moved by Councillor Kelly and seconded by Councillor Mazan. Be resolved, the committee of the whole meeting adjourn at 11:19 a.m. And all those in favor? Everybody is there? Okay, there we go. Thank you. I think that's good. And ladies and gentlemen, that's carried. Thank you. I will see everyone, or we will see everyone tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for our General and Finance Committee, followed by 1 p.m. for our council meeting. Thanks. Have an awesome day.